Welcome to Ultra Retrospective, a little show of mine where I go back and cover shows and movies from the Ultraman franchise to see if they still hold up. Today's entry is pretty special, because it's the first live-action Ultraman entry produced in an English-speaking country, the land down under, Australia. That show is Ultraman Towards the Future. Yes, this is the show that crappy Super Nintendo game is based on. The first episodic series produced in nearly 10 years after Ultraman 80, Ultraman Towards the Future, called Ultraman Great in Japan, was another attempt from Tsuburaya to push the franchise internationally. Was Ultraman Great, well, all that great? Let's take a look. Taking place in a brand new setting, disconnected from the Showa era or any other timeline, the Australian attack team, Yuma, is tasked with fighting a wave of monsters created by the intergalactic parasite Gudis, whose spores have traveled to Earth after its original body was destroyed by a silver giant on Mars, the one and only Ultraman. Astronaut Jack Shindo, who witnessed the battle on Mars, fuses with Ultraman to defend the Earth against Gudis' army and any other monster that shows up, eventually joining Yuma in the process. It very much takes inspiration from the format in Ultraman Ace, with Gudis being comparable to Yapul as an overarching villain of the show, who possesses people and creates monsters. He even, spoilers, gets defeated halfway through the show. This means that I think the first half is a little stronger than the second, but we'll get there when we get there. The difference between Great and Ace is that I actually like the characters in this show, and it has thematically interesting content. Before I move on, I want to mention I actually own an episode of this show on VHS. I found it in a thrift store of all places. You can see how sloppily they cut out Garukadon here. It looks really bad. It even comes with a little pamphlet for an Ultraman Quest Club. Hey, if that's still around, are you still looking for members? Anyways.
It'll be our mess, won't it, Miss Echo? Echo, 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 Echo.
What I like about the attack team in this show is how functional it feels. The vehicles aren't overly colorful or showy, and the team members of Yuma give off the vibe of people who are just showing up for a paycheck, rather than a unified group who all unanimously work together without a hitch. They are more than just functions in a team. They have individual personalities, and they're always ribbing each other.
Say, that's no way to treat a lady.
How would he know?
But there are points where they go too far with the jokes.
Insatiable appetite, public menace, spends most of its time in the juvenile state.
It's perfect, I can see the resemblance.
Cut it out.
That's marvelous.
I get that this is a light-hearted kids show, but the correct response to being told that blowing up the monster could potentially infect and mutate thousands of people isn't to say,
Should we ask it home for lunch?
but still, this is a pretty well-rounded cast of characters. My favorite of the bunch is Arthur Grant, the captain of Yuma. He's a hard ass, he's cranky all the time, but deep down he does care for his team. I like this moment from episode 5.
Jack, this is Arthur.
Notice how he almost apologized to Jack there before cutting himself short. That's great character stuff right there. Ralph Cotterill is also just a good actor. His performance here is great.
One of my best pilots is out there. The other's in a coma. Don't you talk to me about risks!
Arthur?
The only other thing I've seen him in is Howling 3.
Darlings, you look divine.
A movie with a ballerina werewolf. So yeah, I guess I should check out his other work too.
When did you turn into a conservative?
After I discovered that the Browning film of a supposed UFO was actually a film of a condom.
With this being a show from a country known for its insane wildlife, I think the Australian outback is a genius setting for a Monster of the Week fight. I, for one, think it's very brave of the Australian crew for getting all this candid footage of their wildlife without getting stepped on.
Oh, it's Bogan!
In all seriousness, the monster designs in this show aren't all winners. Dagunja is cool for being a marsupial kaiju, but unfortunately he has a face larger than his torso. But all the monsters are memorable in one way or another. There's also an episode where the Monster of the Week looks like it's just going to be a guy in a UFO, but then it turns into a monster. I love the effect here. They just put a little sheet over him, but it works.
If these fools hadn't ruined their atmosphere, we could keep this up forever.
As the narrator says in every episode, the whole reason Ultraman can only maintain his giant form for 3 minutes is due to the Earth's polluted atmosphere, which was there even before Gudis arrived. It's an ingenious way to tie the typical Ultraman mechanics with the theme of the show. Speaking of, I really like the narrator of the show. Maybe they're a little unnecessary because film is a visual medium, but they have a nice voice.
Because of Earth's polluted atmosphere, Ultraman can only retain his gigantic form for 3 minutes. Time is running out.
I also like Ultraman Great as an Ultra. He's one of the few Ultras to use what appears to be actual spandex in the suit, which gives him an interesting look that makes him stand out among the Ultras designed to be the original but different. The only gripe I have is that the human ears are weird looking, and now that I've pointed them out, you probably can't unsee them.
She's stronger than you think.
Stop telling me what I think.
I think this might be the first show to write in scenes of the host interacting with the Ultra, defining them both as separate entities. It's something the Japanese shows would do way later down the line, so it's interesting to see how it started with a production that wasn't domestically produced.
There's always trouble whenever he starts talking to himself.
For a show of this scale, i.e. small, the practical effects are pretty impressive. The buildings and monster suits look about as good as the Heisei-era shows that would air later. Japanese Ultra shows up to this point did often try to give their monsters and heroes weight. Low camera angles were used, but the key issue with that, especially in the latter Showa-era entries, is that they often just shot it at normal speed. Here, there's a real effort to make everything look weighty, from the low camera angles to the action being shot at a high frame rate and slowed down. The effect isn't perfect. You can tell Ultraman is still pulling his punches. It doesn't have the same intensity as the Japanese fight scenes. Ultraman does have an interesting battle style though. It's unlike anything I've seen. He kinda looks like he's playing Ninja, you know, that one playground game where you try to slap someone's hand in single movements. It must have been some Australian censorship law that prevented Ultraman from doing conventional martial arts techniques. Hell, his lasers are shot out of his fingers. It's really silly. It's like he's cocking a gun. I think I like it. But still, the fight scenes in this show are rather weak as a result, which is a shame. There's still a lot to like about the practical effects. For example, I like how Gigasaurus in episode 2 isn't a guy in a suit, but rather a full-blown animatronic. That's genuinely unique for an Ultra Kaiju, and off the top of my head I can't recall if anything like that has been done before or since. The practical effects of this show have a commendable amount of effort put into them, even if they don't always look great. The digital effects are less impressive, I can't defend them. You can see how the island is cut out and composited onto the ocean, the beam effects have kind of a flaccid look to them, and all the compositing looks like ass. Overall, you can tell this was a show made with early computer effects. In fairness, the early Japanese Heisei entries struggled with weak digital effects too, so it's not a problem exclusive to this production. No matter the quality of the effects on either a practical or digital side, there's a great sense that they actually tried here, which I find admirable and endearing. Compare this to the American-produced Ultraman Powered, which had an effects budget in the same ballpark, but was so unconfident in its crappy effects that they felt the need to add rubbery sound effects in post-production to make it seem like it was on purpose. Because, haha, get it you guys, it's guys in suits.
Please clap.
Much less likable there. It also helps that Towards the Future makes better use of camera angles and lenses and high frame rate for scale, but I'll save the Unfortunate Heroes review for another video. The music in this show, it's fantastic. For a show of this budget, I think it's amazing that they were able to get a symphonic orchestra for it. Moments like this combined with the score are really moving. Some melodies were reused from the Hanna-Barbera movie, but I associate that music with this show more than that one. I don't know where else to mention this, but there's a theme song for Ultraman Great that isn't used anywhere in the show. I like it, it's really fun.
It's
It's energetic and the good kind of cheese. I bring this up because an orchestration of this theme is heard in the show, but not the vocal version. Kinda odd. Overall, Ultraman Great is pretty okay.
If you really love her, this is not the way to show it.
What would you know about love?
I like the characters, the acting is generally decent, and the scripts can be delightfully cheesy.
It's a species called Homo sapiens. Ring a bell?
Oh, no, not with me, Jack. I'm too busy evolving.
I like it when a show takes itself seriously, no matter how silly it may be conceptually or in execution.
We were going to make this world into a paradise.
It makes it more likable, and I have a better time getting into a story that the creators believe in.
Goodness is a god.
That's not a choice. That's bullshit.
Oh, damn, that line was almost definitely cut from whatever Saturday morning block this aired in. While the special effects leave a bit to be desired, there's still an admirable effort. While the first half is a little stronger due to its commitment to a serialized story, the second half has good standalone episodes that better emphasize the environmental themes. Ultraman Great himself reappeared in a recent Ultra Galaxy Fight special, so it's nice that they haven't forgotten him completely. At the time of this recording, there aren't any plans to give the show a new stateside home video release. But, if you're feeling a little naughty, it's been uploaded to YouTube in its entirety multiple times. It's only 13 episodes long. It's the perfect length for the story it tells. To this day, it's proof that Ultraman media produced outside of Japan can be okay. In fact, it might be the only proof. Australia's Ultraman is good fun. I really like it. Man, after that last Ultra Retrospective, I'm happy that I got to watch a show that I actually enjoy. The next Ultra Retrospective, it's currently a toss-up between something from the Showa era or the Heisei era. But until then, here is a readout of my top patrons. Radiant GV, Waba, Alcoholic Alligators, Ryan Santa Cruz, Avak Robot, Dante Infante, Ziggy Zigra, It's Godzi, Big Odilo, Inactual Demetrodon, CMG, Red Comet Harry, and Marpzilla. Thank you very much.